The message A'ja Wilson sent her agent after hearing the news was reportedly only 3 words long. That alone says plenty. Still, USA Basketball's choice to leave Wilson off the 2026 World Cup roster while pushing Caitlin Clark into the starting point guard role wasn't some snap call. It had been building for a while. Wilson's repeated jabs at Clark, from questioning her influence to brushing off her accomplishments, eventually caught up with her. International basketball doesn't slow down for personal grudges, and what many saw as a long stretch of negativity ended up costing Wilson a spot on the biggest stage in women's hoops. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think A'ja deserved to be cut from Team USA?
Who should not make this Team USA team? Caitlin Clark destroys in day 2 of Team USA camp, looking like the best player in the world as usual.
A morning phone call began like any other standard check-in. From USA Basketball, Wilson picked up expecting talk about training camp dates or gear fittings for the World Cup. Instead, she heard something that completely flipped the script. The official on the line stayed professional, but the message hit hard. Wilson wasn't being shifted into a new role or asked to take fewer minutes. She was off the roster entirely. People close to her described total shock. This is someone with 2 Olympic gold medals, someone who's dominated the WNBA year after year, someone who truly believed her Team USA spot was untouchable. She'd already been mapping out her calendar around international play, and had even passed on endorsement deals that conflicted with World Cup dates. The thought that USA Basketball might see her as replaceable never crossed her mind. But when you look back, the decision starts to make sense. Scroll through her social media from the last couple of years, and there's a clear pattern of subtle shots at Clark. It started with comments about rookie hype being exaggerated. Then came remarks questioning whether Clark's popularity was really good for the sport, or just setting unrealistic expectations. She usually made these comments in interviews, always phrased just carefully enough to avoid outright confrontation.
There's no... I think she's amazing. I watched every time I possibly could. And our league loves her. This has nothing to do... We're just doing our job. We're going to show up. Who is ever on the other team is on the other team. We don't really care. We're going to show up and do us. And so I think this narrative of like everybody hating on Caitlin
Clark's star kept rising. The comments got sharper. Wilson would point to shooting percentages while ignoring assist totals. She'd talk about uneven media coverage without acknowledging that Clark was pulling new fans into women's basketball. Whenever Clark hit a milestone, Wilson seemed to find a way to minimize it or redirect the spotlight back to veterans who'd been grinding for years. USA Basketball wasn't only paying attention to public comments either. They were also watching how all of this affected team chemistry during international runs. Teammates noticed the tension whenever Clark's name came up. Some veterans even started pulling away from Wilson's attitude because they could see how toxic it was becoming.
Always knew A'ja Wilson was overrated. Eric, let me see your resume. That's what I thought.
The situation reached a breaking point when that constant undermining started spilling into actual team dynamics. Players began voicing concerns about committing to Team USA events if the environment was going to feel hostile. International basketball demands full focus and unity. You can't have veteran leaders wasting energy tearing down the program's rising star. Wilson's agent spent the rest of that Friday making urgent calls, trying to understand how a 2-time Olympic medalist could be passed over for someone without international experience. But the explanation was right there in Wilson's own words. Over the years, USA Basketball had records of the comments, the subtle digs, the repeated attempts to downplay Clark's impact. In the end, Wilson's behavior played a role in her own exit. The organization chose to move forward with positivity and growth, instead of protecting the ego of someone who struggled to share the spotlight.
A'ja Wilson is her name. Quote, "It doesn't matter what we all do as black women, we're still going to be swept underneath the rug. That's why it boils my blood when people say it's not about race, because it is."
For Clark's phone rang just a few hours after Wilson got her news. On the other end was the head of operations for USA Basketball, and the message couldn't have been more different. Clark wasn't just being added to the 2026 World Cup roster. She was being handed the keys: starting point guard, team leader, the face of American basketball on the world stage. USA Basketball had been tracking Clark's rise closely, and this wasn't about getting swept up in hype. For months, they'd been quietly shaping their 2026 plans around her, breaking down her game and measuring her impact on the sport. The data told a story they couldn't ignore.
That speed. is back. That burst is back. And therefore, Caitlin Clark, I would call her number 22, but in this case, number 17 is back. Just the way she gets up the floor, control of the ball, control of the step back, pure, all that. She said she had to get her conditioning back. Sue Bird said that was one thing. It would take her a little.
International broadcast partners had already been calling specifically to ask about Clark. European networks wanted confirmation she'd be playing before locking in coverage. Asian markets were lining up promotional campaigns around her presence. Clark had moved beyond being just a player. She was becoming a global draw in a way women's basketball hadn't seen before. The Nike connection only added fuel. Her signature shoe and international marketing reach had already planted her brand across multiple continents. Having her lead Team USA meant expanding American basketball's global footprint in ways traditional roster decisions never could. Sponsors were lining up based solely on the possibility of Clark running the team. USA Basketball's research team pulled together detailed reports showing her influence across every measurable area. TV ratings climbed when she played. Arenas filled up when her team came to town. Merch sales with her name shattered long-standing records. Social media engagement around the women's game exploded whenever she was involved. It was clear they were looking at something special.
So special, all right? And this is what put pressure on defenses when she's out there, even if her shot isn't falling. All right, watch this. She gets the rebound. She's pushing the floor. Look at this tempo. Look at this tempo, fam. Pushing the floor. Absolutely rushing the defense. And then this is what happens when you do things like this. Look, watch this. Look, now you got a wide open AB over here in the corner. I know it might be hard to see, but a wide open AB. All because she grabbed that rebound and pushed the tempo.
When Clark got the call about being the starting point guard, her reaction said everything. No pushback about pressure. No demands about role clarity. No concerns about veteran hierarchy. She thanked them for the opportunity and asked what she could do to help the team win. That response stood in sharp contrast to what had been happening on the other side. The announcement wasn't just about X's and O's. USA Basketball was sending a message about the kind of leadership they valued. Clark had already shown she could unite teammates and lift everyone around her. She brought the positive energy and inclusive mindset that international competition requires. Her move into the starting lineup marked a clear shift from old-school thinking to a new era in women's basketball. The organization chose the future over the past, growth over stagnation, unity over division, and global reach over protecting egos that couldn't adapt to change.
Caitlin knows when to do this, when not to do this. That's what makes her special. Now, there are other guards that can recognize when to push the floor and when not to, but I'm just pointing out what's special about Caitlin, along with those three balls that she can knock down. When her shot isn't falling, this is what makes her a weapon. Although her shot isn't falling, people still respect her to the level where they're like, hey, she can get hot, man. We're not going to just allow her to be open just because she missed 1, 2, 3 shots. We're not going to allow that, man. Stay on her. That gravity that she holds, man, it opens up the defense like this.
Wilson may be crushed about missing the World Cup, but there's another reality she avoided. The kind of officiating she's used to in the WNBA doesn't exist internationally. FIBA referees operate under a completely different standard than league officials, who are familiar with player reputations and league priorities. In the WNBA, refs understand who drives ratings and storylines. They're aware of marketing pressure and competitive balance. Over the years, Wilson has benefited from that environment, playing a very physical style with whistles that often go.
Only A'ja Wilson could get away with this. Look at this. And ESPN called this a highlight. You could clearly see both feet come off the ground and land again. That's illegal. And let's check this out. A double dribble. She spins, touches it with two hands. Like, this is first grade stuff. The refs, of course, they miss it because it's A'ja Wilson. She's dribbling, touches it with two hands on the spin move, gathers it, and passes to a teammate. And watch this at travel. That's her pivot foot. Like, this is some Angel Reese type stuff. Like, 3 in 1 game.
International officials don't care about any of that. They answer to FIBA, not TV partners or league executives shaping narratives. These refs come from all over the world and have zero incentive to protect any one American star. Fouls are fouls, no matter who commits them. Watch international games side by side with WNBA matchups and the difference is obvious. Hand checks get called. Moving screens get whistled. Veterans don't get extra freedom. And and intimidation tactics don't slide the way they sometimes do in league play. Wilson's physical approach works in the WNBA because officials understand the league's context. She can play through contact, use her body aggressively, and defend with extended arms in ways that would quickly pile up fouls under international rules. Her dominance is tied in part to that environment. Clark's game is the opposite. She doesn't need special treatment to shine. Her success comes from skill, vision, and basketball IQ that translate anywhere. She doesn't rely on borderline plays or referee discretion. Her style works no matter how tight the whistle is.
In the fourth quarter, A'ja Wilson's trying out for an offensive lineman position in the NFL. And then look at, if you don't want to be pissed off, don't watch this. In overtime, a moving screen with 2 minutes left, and this is the biggest shot of the game after fouling out Boston.
International refs care about fundamentals, not reputations. They don't adjust calls to protect stars or preserve storylines. Games are officiated based on the rulebook, not league politics. In a strange way, Wilson's absence may spare her from finding out that her WNBA dominance doesn't carry over as easily under international standards. The global game rewards skill over system advantages. Wilson built her career in an environment that supported her style. International basketball doesn't offer that safety net. Clark, on the other hand, fits exactly what the world stage demands. While Wilson's approach depends on advantages that simply aren't there. And look at those moving screens.
Game in the middle of the third, and this is an offensive foul, right? That's what the refs say. This is how fair the WNBA is, but this is not a moving screen. That was way worse. And not only that, it led to 3 points and called this a foul on the Fever. This is the worst moving screen I've ever seen. And this in the fourth quarter in a 4-point game. Oh, it gets worse. In overtime, a moving screen right in front of everybody. And then guess what it leads to? A 3-pointer in a 2-point game with 2 minutes left. Another moving screen. Instead of calling this a moving screen on A'ja Wilson.
Wilson being cut from Team USA sent shockwaves through WNBA locker rooms everywhere, especially among players who've been taking shots at rising stars. For the first time, there were real consequences for the toxic energy that's been simmering in women's basketball. Veterans who assumed they could tear down younger players without blowback are now realizing their own international futures could be at risk. Ever since Clark exploded onto the scene, negativity and jealousy have crept into the culture. Instead of celebrating the attention and growth she brought to the game, some veterans chose to attack. Wilson may have been the loudest voice, but she wasn't the only one. Other established players joined in with their own quiet digs and dismissive comments. Whenever Clark did something special, now those same players are rushing to separate themselves from Wilson's approach. Players who spent months questioning Clark's value are suddenly deleting old posts and shifting their tone in interviews. They watched Wilson go from a Team USA lock to a complete outsider, and they don't want to be next. Behind the scenes, agents are reportedly urging their clients to embrace more positive messaging about the sports.
Totally destroys Lexi Hall. And guess what? They get a 3-point bucket off that play. They didn't call that an offense foul. Look at this one. Do you see how she sticks her leg out? They wonder why they get wide open layups and 3-pointers. Look at the room it makes when you set an illegal screen. That's why it's illegal. Another one. Look at this. She moves over and it's just enough time for her teammate to get a 3-pointer off. Watch how she does this. She thrusts her hips at the end. Look at it. Thrust her hips to get that extra space, and she gets an open layup. Like I said, 4 offensive fouls they didn't call, and they got 10 points.
USA. Basketball's decision makes it clear that greatness isn't just about stats or trophies. Leadership matters. Character matters. Your ability to lift the entire game matters when selection committees are deciding who represents the country. Wilson had every basketball credential imaginable, but she failed the character test in a big way. 2 years of negativity toward Clark ended up costing her everything. And the impact doesn't stop with Team USA. Sponsors are paying attention to which players stand for growth and which ones fuel division. International leagues are watching too, evaluating American players not just by how they perform on the court, but by how they carry themselves publicly and how they affect team chemistry. Wilson's approach has made her a liability to organizations that want to build something positive, instead of tearing others down.
I told us today that after practice you were a little bit nervous going in just because you hadn't played in a while. Was there a moment you tried to get over that, said, all right, I'm good, I'm back to where I was before I got hurt? And I think you hit that one step back 3 that sort of bring sort of some comfort in some ways in the start part we saw?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like when I touched the basketball to start warming up before the practice even started, that's probably when I felt pretty comfortable. But I mean, I've worked so hard. Like, I haven't taken a break since, you know, honestly, since the beginning of the WNBA season, with just all my rehab and getting back to where I wanted to be and then getting even better. So that's been kind of my focus. And, you know, this has kind of been my next thing that I've been working for since our season ended.
Clark's continued rise, despite constant criticism from Wilson and others, proves something important about talent and character. You can try to tear someone down, but if they keep producing while staying true to who they are, that negativity eventually blows back on the people throwing it. Clark never fired back. She didn't match the hostility. She just kept playing elite basketball and winning over fans all around the world. International basketball operates on a completely different level than petty WNBA politics. There are titles to chase and global audiences to inspire. Teams don't have room for players who bring drama and division when unity and focus are required to succeed on the world stage. Wilson's exclusion signals the beginning of the end. For players who think success comes from tearing others down, that old strategy doesn't work anymore. The future belongs to players like Clark who focus on growing the game instead of guarding their egos. Women's basketball is moving forward with leaders who understand that lifting the sport lifts.
Way at the end of the WNBA season, like, obviously I did everything I could to try to be able to come back and, you know, be able to play for my team, but, you know, it just didn't really work. I think that was almost a way of relief for myself, just knowing that, you know, I gave everything I could to possibly try to play, but my body just wasn't really letting me.
By the end of the WNBA season, it was like I did everything I could to try to come back and play for my team. I really did, but it just didn't work out. Honestly, there was almost some relief in knowing I gave everything I had to try, and my body just wasn't allowing it. Wilson being removed from Team USA while Clark steps into the starting point guard role tells you exactly where women's basketball is headed. USA Basketball made a clear choice between someone who spent 2 years attacking the sport's biggest star and someone who actively grows the game. They chose the future over the past. Clark's rise into a leadership role didn't happen by accident. She brings the rare mix of elite talent and strong character. She doesn't need favorable whistles or protected treatment to dominate. She just plays great basketball and makes everyone around her better. That's what international competition demands from players representing the United States. Let me know in the comments if you think AJA deserved to be fired from Team USA. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Click to video on screen, and I'll see you in the next one.